Hey everyone. Recently, we just hit 20,000 subscribers, and as a thank you, I'll be giving away some free merch to one lucky subscriber. The merch bundle includes a t-shirt, a mask, as well as my new hoodie that hasn't even come out yet. In order to be eligible, you must make sure you have all these requirements checked off. If you're already subscribed, just make sure to comment down below with your Instagram or Twitter so I can message you if you've won. I'll be picking a winner at the end of the month. Good luck and enjoy the video. I live in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains of northeast Georgia. It's a beautiful place to go camping, hiking, fishing, and hunting. To preface this, I was 28 years old at the time of this story and have spent a lot of time outdoors in various different parts of the US and Canada. I've seen and heard a lot of strange stuff, but this takes the prize. I was backpacking in northern Ontario with my girlfriend during the summer months of the year, as we were the outdoorsy type and loved exploring new places. We had lived in rural Georgia at the time, but wanted to give the north a try as it was very different. My girlfriend had brought along her camera for the hike as she was a photographer and always liked to capture photos of nature. I found her habit of taking pictures a bit annoying, but supported her all the way. Being experienced hikers, we started off with the level 3 trail, which was about a 4-hour walk. For those of you who don't know what the levels of trails are, here's an explanation. Each trail is based on your experience of hiking. Level 1 was considered an hours-long path, while levels 2 and 3 were longer with more treacherous terrain. If you were a newbie on level 3, you'd be worn out within 10 minutes of it. Anyway, we start walking the trail with our backpacks full, water bottles filled to the brim, and a bunch of snacks. Our plan was to stop at the tower hidden deeper into the woods and have our snacks there and continue the hike. We're walking along the trail, admiring the nature, and my girlfriend is taking loads of pictures. Very faintly, I begin to hear a noise coming from somewhere deeper into the woods. My girlfriend didn't hear it because she was a few feet behind me, but I tell her to stay quiet and ask if she had heard the noise. We stop dead in our tracks and the noise became a bit clearer. I wasn't sure then, but I could make out the sound to be that of crying. We both immediately assume that someone is lost and needs help, and we start to follow the crying. After all, this was a very long trail with tons of trees and brush, which meant that it was very easy to get lost in here. We both had come to the conclusion that it wasn't another hiker or camper. Based on the pitch and tone of the crying, we figure it's a young girl no older than 10. At this point, the crying stops and the sun was starting to set. After 30 minutes of searching, we still couldn't find her even after calling out to her. With very little light out by now, we had decided to head back to the parking lot and inform the proper authorities about a missing child report. We're about halfway back when my girlfriend shines her flashlight to the right of us into a really thick deadfall. I ask her if she's heard anything and she just tells me to listen. I do so, and in the distance, I can hear the all too familiar crying. We both call out to her and listen for any kind of response, but all we got in return was just faint crying. As we get closer to this brush, I start to get this weird and strange feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. I tell this to my girlfriend, and she felt the same way, but neither of us can figure out as to what it is. We both stop and call out for her when we figure it out. The crying is on a loop. It's the same little sob, wheeze, then wail, repeated over and over again, and we take off running. This is the first time I've ever lost control of myself, and neither of us wanted to stick around to find out what it actually was. We get back to the parking lot where there was thankfully a ranger nearby and explain everything with my girlfriend literally in tears. The ranger took down our statement and we left right then and there. I still don't know what we encountered that night in the woods, but I do know that it was definitely no girl. My name is Brandon, and I've spent a lot, and I mean a lot of time camping, hunting, and hiking. I used to go hiking alone very frequently and spent a lot of times outdoors in various parts of the Northeast region, particularly the New England area, mainly being New Jersey. I wasn't too big on the idea of hiking with others and mainly preferred to be alone with the exception of my dog. He was a lovely saddleback German Shepherd and would always help me hunt hogs and making me alert of my surroundings. Anyway, I was going hiking with my dog as usual, and we were hiking along a very steep trail when I noticed a bag laying on the side toward a few trees. It was genuinely common for people to lose stuff while hiking these trails, so I put it in my backpack and figured I'd return it later. However, I began to notice footsteps in the dirt leading up the trail, which meant that the person was probably up there. I tell my dog to come, and he follows while sniffing out for anyone or anything. He thankfully picks up a scent and starts to lead me a little ways up the trail, ending up at the top of a rocky hill where I made a shocking discovery. There were huge drag marks in the dirt, along with a torn up tent and camera. At this point, my dog is sniffing around while I'm standing there trying to process as to who or what did this. Surprisingly, I find a man laying on the side of the tent practically having a panic attack. He was in really bad shape and looked as if he were out here for hours. I give him some water and food, and he starts crying and wouldn't stop talking about the goat man. Goat man this, goat man that, over and over again. He explained that him and his wife were camping when someone or something resembling a goat destroyed their campsite and killed his wife. This likely explained the drag marks, and I'm standing there trying to get a hold of the proper authorities. Normally, I'd find the situation to be linked to drugs, but his eyes were filled with terror and there were ample amounts of blood on him, some of it not being his. Thankfully, I get through to someone and a few forest rangers and paramedics arrive soon after, along with an emergency STARS helicopter. After leaving, I start to take notice of the drag marks and footprints. I've been studying and tracking predators for years now, and the ones that I was seeing looked nothing like I've ever seen before. They were big and flat and almost resembled that of a lily pad, just like a goat. Long story short, I go back to my truck and I never found out more information on the whole ordeal. I still go hiking, but never went back to that trail. This happened to me and my 12-year-old daughter about 5 years ago while on a hiking trip for a getaway weekend. My wife died a few years ago with my son in a car accident caused by a drunk driver, and I had lost everything but my daughter. From that day forward, I spent more time around my daughter and gave her the attention that she deserved. This included doing the things she wanted, with one of them being hiking. It seems pretty uncommon for an 8-year-old to be into hiking, but she was the adventurous type and was always full of energy. One day, we had been hiking on a really neat trail in Northern California that I had always gone to when I was a kid. It was right on top of a massive waterfall, and the paths are kind of like rocky caves/walls. The best part about it was that it was very much off the beaten path that nobody really knew about. You'd occasionally maybe get 1 or 2 hikers here and there, but other than that, you were pretty much on your own. Anyway, my daughter and I start to hike up the trail, making sure our water bottles were full and had our bug spray with us. As we start walking, all the childhood memories start flooding back in my head. It was very different, but I could make out a few things. About an hour into the hike, my daughter and I come across a 2-way path a few feet from the waterfall. I tell her we could go to whichever one she wanted, and she immediately starts running down the left cave. I angrily tell her to stop, but she ignores me and keeps running while I follow behind. I go through the little cave while hearing the roaring sound of the waterfall, calling out to my daughter for nearly 5 minutes. There was no response, just the sound of the waterfall and the sounds of nature. Thankfully, I then see my daughter at the end of the cave, sitting on a rock drinking her water. These crevices are like a maze, so I was confused as to how she managed to find an exit. I get to her and annoyingly tell her that she can't just run off like that, and then ask her how she found a way out. She says she found a way out with the trail guide. Okay, so I'm standing there in confusion because there are no trail guides. There are rangers, but she knows the difference. Emily, who are you talking about? What trail guide? She says that as she was looking down at the waterfall, a man she had never seen before from another path came up to her and led her out. The very second she tells me this, I hear from down the cave a very loud and blood-curdling scream. I grab my daughter by the hand and we start booking it down the continued trail, with us thankfully making it back to my car safely. We drive out of there with my heart practically beating out of my chest, not looking back. We never went back to those trails again, and I didn't want to know who or what made that noise. It was unlike anything I've ever heard.